Okay, video's on.
Videos on. Okay, anyways.
Nice, sweet.
Right.
Hello again. We're back with another short form podcast today. Wanted to talk about the time frames for what's expected for when you're buying a house. A lot of people ask, how long does it take to actually go through all the steps to go from looking at a place to with keys in hand? And we wanted to talk a little bit about what that process looks like.
Yeah, exactly. We've had quite a few requests to do this video, so we thought we'd kind of break it down a little bit shorter today. And we've just kind of written some things down. So we're going to kind of cover it as in a situation where you're a first-time home buyer or you've already sold what you needed to sell and now you're just looking to buy, because obviously there's different factors and different situations. We're just going to cover it this way because it all depends varying on the situation and the person. So if someone inquires to us or we meet somebody, they want to purchase a home, usually the first thing we're going to do as realtors, and any realtor should do, is a needs assessment. So whether it's over a phone call, a Zoom, you sit down and have a coffee, whatever it may be, we're going to chat about the whys and why you're moving, where you need to be, your price range, bedrooms, bathrooms, your lifestyle, and all these questions that, we're going to ask to figure out how we're going to set up your search to make you get the most relevant properties, and you're not just wasting your time browsing every single thing that looks, that pops on the market essentially.
Yeah, and a benefit of having that type of assessment is figuring out, are you investing for, are you looking to purchase for property for investing purposes? Are you looking to purchase for yourself and you have very specific requirements of what you need?
Yeah.
This allows us to really focus in on what is it that's the goal of your real estate experience? What are you trying to get out of this? And allows us to really focus in on what to look for. A big benefit with working with us is not just to set you up on a standard automated property search where emails just show up, but our day-to-day, we're speaking with a lot of people who are thinking about selling. We have access to properties that aren't necessarily listed on the market yet. So this is where we're able to reach out to maybe people that have homes that aren't publicly available, but they match exactly what you're looking for. Yeah. And we're able to be keyed into what you're actually what you're trying to get out of this. So that's the first initial step.
Yeah.
Now, Jake, you want to talk a little bit about what the touring process looks like?
Yeah, for sure. So typically, sellers are going to like something like, say, a 24-hour notice for a property for a tour. So if it's, you want to look at something on a Friday, typically, Thursday morning, we're looking Thursday morning afternoon, we're looking to book something around that time to give them the time to get the house ready, or if they have tenants or whatever it may be, just to make it work with their schedules. And with the standard tour, I guess it all depends on the person, if you're in town locally or if you're coming from out of town. But a typical tour for me is anywhere from 2 to 8 homes kind of thing in a day. And we'll try to cover, if you're looking for Nanaimo, we'll cover all over Nanaimo and things like that. But that's the typical tour. And then we're gonna, whether I'm picking you up from the ferry, whatever, or the airport, or we're meeting there, we're just gonna kind of have it typically about an hour at each home. You don't usually take an hour at each home because this is just kind of your first initial walkthrough. I find a lot of people, if they like something, we end up going back and looking at it again. But you're spending 15 minutes, half an hour in each home. And we'll walk through and we'll talk about the pros, the cons. Kind of, I like my clients to, if they can, or I'll do it, is write a list down of things they liked and things they didn't like, and it's just easy to go back and reference. Oh, hey, this house on 123 Main Street, I really love this and this, but I didn't really like the road. It was really noisy or something like that.
Yeah. So and that's a good point. Where typically, if a home has tenants or is occupied by the sellers at the time, they typically require or ask for 24 hours notice. Yeah. There are some exceptions to that, where we do come across homes that are vacant, nobody's in them, we're preparing to sell well in advance, they don't have any tenants or anyone occupying, so that could be as quick as a 30-minute notice.
And some people are flexible, right? They get a notification, they're at work and they work 10-hour shifts from 6 to 6, and you're like, hey, we pop by at 4:30. The realtor calls their client or texts them and they go, yeah, go for it, have at it, and it's totally fine. It's every situation is different.
So going to the next step, we're looking at properties. This could be anywhere from 1 day to 1 year worth of looking at different options as they come up.
Yeah.
Now, what we find a home, we like it, we want to write an offer. How long does that process take, and typically what's involved in that?
Yeah, kind of going back to that initial, we talked about kind of needs assessment stuff. This is where I also like to chat about things that your clients are comfortable with, like, and what their parameters are. Do they need a home inspection? Do they need financing? What does all that look like? So writing an offer, really, it's after you find the house, you like it, you figure out, look at the comparables, you send them the comparables in the area or in the last couple months that have sold. So when you're looking at price, it's a fair price and it makes sense with what the market value is of the home. It's pretty simple. It could take you an hour, maybe an hour to draft up a contract.
Yep.
Even quicker if you kind of have it all dialed in. And then you usually leave it open for 24 hours depending on what the seller requests.
So basically, we find a home. We already figure out what's important to us: home inspections, subjects, conditions, what we want included with the property, what we want excluded with the property. Once we get all that figured out, price, and then this is also when you're writing the offer is where we figure out what's that completion date look like. So when are we getting the money moving from one person to another, and when are we actually going to get a set of these keys? Typically, we want to have that conversation with the seller and of course with the buyer to see what works for everyone. Is the buyer flexible? Are they able to, whenever, where we don't have to sell and we don't have a tenancy agreement, whenever we find a place we're ready to move. That's where we're taking into consideration. If they are flexible and you're using that to your advantage as a buyer, and you go to the seller and you say, well, what works for you? And they also say, well, as soon as possible. If both parties want to get this done as soon as they possibly can. Typically, what's involved there is, well, do we have a mortgage? So we have to check in with a mortgage broker. How fast can we get an inspector? Home insurance. Have you spoke with a home insurance provider and given them everything they need? And how long will it take them to provide a quote? And from there, the last kind of piece is the notary or lawyer.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the main thing where how much time do they need to get all the documents all put together in a way where you just have to show up in person and sign off with them. Typically, if for the shortest amount of time, we try to give about a month. So usually from writing the contract to moving in, getting keys, typically it's about a month worth of time. There are exceptions, of course.
Of course. There's always going to be different, variances, and some people need to sell, like we chatted about before, and some people, for the sellers, are like, hey, we've already bought something, and it's February 10th. We can't move out until April 1st. So this is the date you have to accommodate. And with that, then you get into the negotiation process. Okay, well, we're giving you your dates. Here's our price and things like that. But typically a month and a half, let's say 30 to 45 days can be an average turnaround for someone that's, said first time home buyer ready to go, and the sellers are in the same position where they're ready to go as well.
So shortest amount of time, maybe a couple weeks. Longest amount of time, we've seen pre-builds where it's a couple of years. And so that's not uncommon. Of course, it's totally dependent on the situations. So let's say, standard 1 month procedure. Let's say we get an accepted offer, not getting ahead of ourselves, getting an accepted offer, and we're doing our due diligence. Now, this could range pretty dramatically for the amount of time that you have to actually do all the research before saying we're actually going to pull the trigger on this or not. If it's a multiple offer situation, now there's this 3-day rescission period. Before, there used to be subject free offers where you send the offer in, they accept it, you're as good as sold contractually. But when it comes to when it becomes the 3-day subject removal period or the 3-day rescission period, which is now mandatory, where you have 3 days to decide whether you're going to buy the place or not, and that's 3 business days. So weekends and holidays don't count. So that's the shortest amount of time, is the 3 days of due diligence, where you get an inspection if you're able to. You get your finances in order. You sleep on it and decide whether you want to still move forward. 3 days is the shortest amount of due diligence, and typically for the longest amount. Depends on the listing. If it's been sitting for a couple of months, not a bidding war or anything like that.
I would say if you're in a market, right now we do have some multiples on some homes where it's quick, and some are also sitting for 30, 60, 90 days. I would say in a typical real estate transaction, what I found in 80% of the transactions I've done is a standard year 10 to 14 days for a subject removal period. And now that's including your financing, your inspection, your insurance, checking with the city to make sure, everything on title and everything looks good, and you're okay with that. That's kind of your, I want to say standard, but your average time that I usually see with my clients, and it makes the most sense. Like, gives the broker enough time, gives you more than enough time to get an inspection done and go over things. And if you need someone like an electrician to come by, it gives you time to do that as well. So that's what I would say standard time, or average time I'm seeing for due diligence period.
And let's say you have a 12-day subject removal period where you have 12 days after you submit your offer to do your research. Let's say those 12 days come along and it's not enough time. What happens then?
So if you're still interested in the home, obviously, and the client say, hey, we love this home, but we need an extra 5 days or 3 days, that's when one of us or your realtor would go to the agent and say, hey, we love this home, but we just need an extension. Are your sellers cool with giving us, an extra 3 or 4 days to complete this due diligence? In some cases, we'll even remove, hey, we'll remove the financing in this subject and this subject. But we just need a little bit more time for the inspection period of it. Can we, show good faith by removing these subjects, but just give us a 4-day extension on this particular one, just to make sure the foundation's in good working order, or whatever it may be.
Yeah, and that's the main thing, right? At the end of the day, nothing is final until everyone agrees and signs off on everything. So if it is a situation where you love everything else about the house, but the inspection report found an issue with the foundation or an issue with the electrical, or there's thousands of other examples you could go through where it's, we had the inspection, everything else looked good, our financing's good, our insurance, all of the other subjects, we're ready to go with that. But we need another 5 days because we need to have an electrician come by and verify if there's any issues or what exactly you're dealing with. That's something where usually if people are reasonable and there's no other backup offers or other offers that are on the table, usually that's something that can be negotiated. And of course, this is your due diligence period where you are able to potentially talk about price reductions and adjustments to your initial contract after you figure out more details about the place.
Exactly, yeah.
So I think that we covered a good chunk of what it looks like to actually buy a place, from setting up a tour, writing an offer, getting that offer accepted, doing your due diligence, and then of course completion and possession, where you sign off on everything with the lawyers. So hope that gives a little bit of details and gives a little bit more of what you could expect when you're in the process of buying a place. And of course, if you have any questions or you want us to cover any other videos in the future, definitely let us know. We're always happy to chat about all things real estate and sometimes football and whatever else. So
yeah, we'll have a video after this Sunday and let you know who was right.
Yeah, exactly. Come Super Bowl time. So thank you guys for watching again. We always appreciate it, and looking forward to seeing you on the next one.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.